Hello, and welcome to your next lesson. Today we will create maps in Microsoft Excel. We'll use the Geography tool to extract information that we will use to create our maps. The Geography tool extracts information from the internet to create and update an existing chart. For this reason, an internet connection is required to use this tool. However, an internet connection is not required to view an existing chart. I should also mention, maps can only plot high-level geographic details, so latitude, longitude, and street address mapping isn't supported at this time. Please open the Visual Data Worksheet and go to your GeoMaps tab to follow along in this lesson. Okay, so here we are on our spreadsheet, and I have added some data for us to work with. So before we get started with the Geography tool, I would like to do a manual demonstration. Just a few things I would like to mention before we get started. Your mapping levels will need to be separated by columns. In other words, your country, your state, and your city would need to be in its own individual columns in order to do the mapping. Also, this tool only supports one series at a time, so unfortunately, I am not able to add population plus the abbreviated state. I will have to do each one individually, as this exercise will demonstrate. Okay, so let's begin by selecting column A, B, and C. We're going to map the United States based on the abbreviation. So let's go ahead and say Insert. Let's hop over to our Charts group. Let's go ahead and get the drop down for Maps. Let's go ahead and say Map. Okay, so now as you can see, a map of the United States is now on your screen. Let's go ahead and size it out. Okay, next I would like to go ahead and add my labels. Let's hit the plus sign. Let's go ahead and check labels. So now you can see that the abbreviation has now been applied to each individual state. Now, what I mentioned earlier is that I cannot add the population and the abbreviation at the same time, and I will have to do each one individually. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and grab the abbreviation. I'm going to get in the 4-arrow mode, and I'm just going to simply drag it over to the population. And now my map reflects the population. Let's go ahead and click Labels. And as you can see, it applies the population as reflected in the population column. Next, I would like to do a similar exercise using the Geography tool. Let's go ahead and delete this map before we get started. Just go ahead, select it, and delete. Let's go ahead and delete the abbreviation and population column as well. Let's go ahead and select column C and D. Let's right click and just go ahead and say delete. Now I would also like to make a copy of column B, and I'll explain this once we get into the exercise. So let's go ahead and select column B. Let's do a right click. Let's go ahead and say copy. Let's select column C, do a right click, and let's go ahead and say paste. Okay, so now we're going to use our Geography tool to extract information that we will use to create our next map. Let's begin by selecting cells C2 to C53. Let's go to the Data tab. Let's go to the Data Types group, and let's go ahead and select the Geography tool. This tool will place a little image on your individual cells that contains information based on the location. Let's go ahead and look at Alabama. So as I click the image, you will get a pop-up box which contains information related to Alabama. You will see the capital is Montgomery. You will see its leaders, region-related information, area and population-related information. Additionally, as you scroll, you will see additional information related to population, time zone-related information, and even income-related information. We're going to go ahead and extract information from these cards to create additional maps. And today we're going to do exactly what we did in our previous exercise. We'll go ahead and extract the population and the abbreviation. Okay, so let's go ahead and click Alabama. Let's click the plus sign next to Alabama. And let's go ahead and say insert abbreviation. Let's click the plus sign again. Let's scroll down to population. And as you can see, it creates a cell for the abbreviation as well as the population. Let's go ahead and grab two more. Let's get the plus sign again. This time, let's go ahead and say population under the age of 18. Okay, let's do one more. And this time we'll go ahead and say median household income. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and do an autofill so we can extract this information from each of our individual states. Let's go ahead and highlight the Alabama information that we just extracted from our card. Okay, now let's get into autofill mode, which is our black cross. And instead of dragging, we're going to go ahead and double click. Alright, so as you can see, our information is filled out and we are now ready to go ahead and create our maps. Okay, so now let's begin by selecting columns C and D. So this should give us a map of the United States abbreviated by each individual state. Let's go ahead and see what happens. Let's say insert. Let's go ahead and get the drop down for maps and let's say maps. So as I stretch it out, you will see a map that is not isolated to the United States. This is the reason I left my state and my country separated. Okay, so let's go ahead and delete this map and try it using our separate columns. Now let's go ahead and select column A, column B. Let's hold the control key down and select column D. Now let's go ahead and say insert. Let's head over to our charts group. Let's get the map drop down and get our map. Okay, now as I stretch it out, you will see a map of the United States only. Let's go ahead and hit the plus sign. Let's click labels. And now you will see our abbreviations has been added to our map. Okay, and just like we did in previous exercises, we're going to go ahead and select the existing series and we're going to go ahead and move it one column over. Let's go ahead and select our map. Let's grab the highlighted portion. Let's make sure we are in the 4-arrow mode and let's go ahead and drag it over to the population. Okay, so you may notice that our labels are no longer present. Let's go ahead and put them back because now we're talking population. Let's hit the plus sign. Let's go ahead and say data labels. Okay. Now let's go ahead and drag this over to the population under 18. So again, with our chart highlighted, we're going to go ahead and select the highlighted portion in column E. Let's make sure we are in the 4-arrow mode. Let's click and simply drag it over to column F. Okay, so this reflects the population under the age of 18. Again, let's place our data labels in. Let's go ahead and just check data labels. Now this is based on percentages, so let's go ahead and make sure that that is reflected in our chart. Again, let's select data labels. Let's select more options. Let's go down to the number category and let's get the drop down. And let's just go ahead and say percentages. And as you can see, your chart now is based on percentages. Alright, now let's go ahead and drag one more over. So again, let's make sure that our chart is selected. Let's go ahead and grab the blue area. Let's make sure we are in the 4-arrow mode. And again, let's go ahead and drag it over. Okay, now we need to go ahead and put our labels back. So let's go ahead and select the plus sign. Let's say data labels and go ahead and click it. Now let's make this dollar signs. So let's go more options. Again, let's select numbers. Let's go ahead and say accounting and we'll just leave it at that. Okay, so now you can see how easy it is to create a map in Excel, especially using the geography tool because you have a lot of different variations that you can apply to your chart. And with that being said, we're going to go ahead and wrap this lesson up. I hope you found this information helpful, and I will see you in the next video.
Okay, so that wraps up this
And
video.
my country
Job well done
separated.
today. Be sure to save your work and then celebrate your accomplishments. Great job.